Hey guys, Andi here. Today we're going to be checking out ROCKSTARS breakdown of Shazam! Fury of the Gods. If you haven't seen my review for the film, go check that out. If you haven't seen the film, highly recommend actually checking it out, which is kind of a spoiler for my review. I really enjoyed it. It's a great family film. It's a lot of fun. I found it hilarious. The action was great. The family dynamic was great. It's not a perfect film, but it is a darn good time, man. Don't let the box office results or the critics tell you otherwise. But with that all said and out of the way, guys, if you're not supporting new ROCKSTARS, or what are you doing with your lives, go give them a subscribe. I was going to say a follow, which works too, I guess. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Go give them some love, and let's check out what they got. This is surprisingly shorter than I would have expected, but let's go.
Welcome back to New ROCKSTARS. I'm Eric Boss, and this is a breakdown of Shazam! Fury of the Gods, a follow-up to the 2019 DC film Shazam, with a lot of fun cameos, Easter eggs, and a shameless Skittles product placement that almost made me run back out to concessions. Sir, we were told you to cut you off after 4 boxes of Bunch of Crunch. But I need to taste the rainbow, damn it! Let's break this movie down scene by scene, and a reminder to check out our new channel, The Deep Dive, where this Friday will be my analysis of the 1989 Batman. The best way to support our growing network is to get some of our merch.
You know, I haven't seen the 89 Batman since I was like a kid, to be honest.
In a museum by the Acropolis in Athens, where Rizwan Manji plays a very non-Greek, unlucky docent who explains the history of the wizard's broken staff, which, remember, Shazam Billy snapped in half in the 2019 film, and the docent here says it was found in a dump outside Philly after breaking 3 trash compactors. 2 figures.
This is also his second role in the DCU, DC Universe, whatever we're calling this at the moment. I posit a theory that depending on how things were going to go, this film already takes place in the reset timeline. There's a couple of things that happen throughout it that make me think that, but one thing is this guy, he's the janitor from Peacemaker as well.
In Greek armor march up, the Furies, Hespera, Helen Mirren, and Calypso, Lucy Liu. Calypso tries to press her hand through the glass casing at first, setting up Shazam, encasing her inside the dome barrier in the final battle. Framed directly behind these two in the middle is a statue
their father.
Of Atlas, their father. In Greek mythology, the Hesperides were 3 nymphs of the evening, which is where Hespera gets her name, whereas Calypso was a different figure. Calypso, spelled with a C, is another daughter of Atlas, who in the Odyssey trapped Odysseus on an island for 7 years, promising him immortality. But these 3 sisters are not really in DC Comics. They were created for the film. They and their sister Anthea, Rachel Zegler, are the daughters of Atlas, who represent the last of the gods in the DC universe. Because
God, too. I don't know if he'll get into it. I like this concept. One, I like Greek mythology a lot, and I love that they're bringing it in because that really is an integral part of Shazam's character, and even just passing on, it connects to the Amazonians, it connects to Wonder Woman, that whole pantheon. I like this as an extension of that, and again, if this were to continue on in some form or fashion, it could easily help us expand the Paradise Lost, the Themyscira series that's going to be coming out as well, kind of expand upon those ideas. But one thing I wanted to point out is just like, as much as I love this and the fact that they're not from the comics or anything like that, but I still found them intriguing enough and factor in a way that makes it feel like I'm surprised that they're not in the comics, to be honest. It just, like, the more and more today, before I recorded this, we're seeing more things come out, more reports about just how The Rock, who played Black Adam, Shazam's, like, primo antagonist, and he, one, interfered with the post-credit scene in this. It's come out that he's the reason that it's only Harcourt and Economos that appear in the post-credit scene, because it was supposed to be JLA members. And he was like, no crossover, wouldn't allow any use of those characters for whatever reason. And then on top of that, he continued to be very firm about not having Black Adam and Shazam ever interact. Like, barely a reference or a mention to either between the two. And it's just like, why, dude? What the hell? Anyway.
Because remember, in the first Wonder Woman movie, we learned Ares killed off all the other gods, which, looking back, was a bit of a bummer, especially considering how fun the gods were in Zack Snyder's Justice League during the ancient Darkseid battle. These sisters turn the museum.
It just makes me wonder how Ares actually pulled it off, to be honest. I know they kind of went over it, but it is kind of like, really? By himself?
Attendees into caked sand or clay, and I just appreciate how all their magic seems to be based on elemental earthly materials, like the dragon is composed of wood. Later, when Shazam annihilates a tree, everything just turns into dead leaves. It just imbues their power with an ancient earthly quality.
Yeah, I like that about it. Another thing about that, the whole opening where they're running through, taking out the security and taking the staff back, and then when they entomb everybody and petrify them all, it's really horrifying. Like, David F. Sandberg does a fantastic job, both in the first and in this one, at being extremely horrifying in a PG-13 way. Because it's really messed up, and it's intense. And, I mean, there's the office scene in the first movie. There's a lot of other moments as well in that he just does a really good job at bringing that element into it. And then on top of that, it's also very much like, I also kind of attributed to like the whole idea of them being kind of caked and trapped in this stone as like this kind of Pompeii-esque reference. I don't think that maybe that wasn't what they were going for there, but I did like that as an element.
Slash pediatrician
in my head.
Dario Bava is played by PJ Byrne, who plays the bot filmmaker Adam Bork in The Boys. The toys in his office include a cameo by Annabelle.
Annabelle again.
David F. Sandberg also directed Annabelle Creation, and he included an Annabelle cameo in the 2019 Shazam film and that antique shop early in the movie.
This is the third time Annabelle's popped up, because James Wan, also Aquaman, in one of the wreckages, you can see Annabelle floating in the sea. And now so there's 3 Annabelle dolls floating around this universe, or it's all the same doll and they just can't get rid of it.
There are also Wonder Woman dolls, a Batman figurine, literally DC merch is everywhere.
Yeah, Robin, Green Lantern, Flash.
There is a unicorn, King of the Beasts.
Ah.
Really fun DC Easter eggs here on the alphabet wall. S for Starro,
Oh,
the villain
yeah.
from the Suicide Squad. T for Titano, the Super Ape, a Superman villain. And K for Kraken, an ancient beast fought by Aquaman. Billy is confessing his imposter syndrome, comparing himself to the Flash and Aquaman and Batman, naming them in the order of the next times we will see these movies on the DC slate. The Flash coming June 2023,
that's an interesting point.
Kingdom coming December 2023, and the next Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson Batman scheduled for October 2025. New head of DC Films James Gunn announced their Gods and Monsters plan earlier this year, and at the moment, it's kind of tough to see how Shazam Fury and the Gods will fit into it, if at all. This movie's post-credit scene shows Harcourt and Economos from Gunn's The Suicide Squad and HBO Max's Peacemaker series recruiting Shazam for the Justice Society, similar to Amanda Waller trying to recruit Black Adam in that movie's post-credit scene. Now, so it seems like there are a sizable number of DC fans who are going after James Gunn constantly right now, and Harcourt is played by James Gunn's real-life wife, Jennifer Holland. Gunn did say that the post-credit scene and the whole film was shot before he took over DC in December. But he does have a Peacemaker spin-off series, Waller, in the works for HBO Max, and this could tie into that. Either way, it sounds like the Flash movie this summer will reset the DC film continuity, with other universes left as deliberate elseworlds, like the Pattinson Batman universe and the Joaquin Phoenix Joker universe. So whether or not Shazam is part of that really depends on how well this movie does. We return to the family foster home with Freddy, Eugene, Pedro, Darla.
I hope they keep it anyway, man, because I mean, it's so by itself, and it would factor in so beautifully with the theme of this chapter. I mean, gods and monsters. This whole movie is gods and monsters. You know, there's a couple of things obviously they could tweak, but like I said, there's a couple of things, I don't know if he'll touch on it, that make me think that it already exists in the soft rebooted timeline. One, namely the suits and the fact that they reshot. And I know it was for an aesthetic reason, or at least that's the excuse David F. Sandberg gave, was that it looked weird jumping between the original shot and then being in the old suits compared to the new suits for continuity, even though that breaks continuity. In my head right now, that's because we're in a new timeline and this has always been the suits. And there's a specific other thing that happened in the first movie that, oddly enough, was omitted in this one. And we'll get to it.
Darla and Mary. Darla is accused of
I'll
leaving
remember.
Skittles in her pockets, and she makes a diorama of unicorns attacking Genghis Khan, foreshadowing the unicorn charge in the final act, which is fueled by Skittles, the ambrosia of today, which is generous. Like, have you tried the butterbeer at Wizarding World of Harry Potter, or the Cocoa Puff topped cold brew at Galaxy's Edge?
I don't even know what a ambrosia tastes like or what it is, to be honest. I've heard of it. I have no idea what it was. I just assumed it was like a flower. I've never in my life tasted it.
Yes, obviously I have a sweet tooth. I'm all cavities. Grace Caroline Currey plays both the normal Mary Bromfield and the powered up Mary, the only one of the Shazam family to not have an adult actor playing her powered up form. As Sandberg said that she's already an adult now. Also, Michelle Borth wasn't brought back from the first film after some interesting political Instagram posts. The kids in this movie are always wearing reference.
I honestly, I didn't even notice. I mean, it makes sense for Mary. I mean, she's right there at that point. Why even bother? The other ones, there's like a big drastic change and a glow up across the board for the jump. Though one can argue with Asher or Billy in Universe about to turn 18 that why wouldn't he still just be a mini Asher? But I don't know. It is what it is, man.
Prince shirts. Like Billy here wears a Goonies shirt, as he's really the Mikey of this Goonies.
Check out my reactions to the Goonies on the channel currently.
Freddy, just like in the 2019 film, is always wearing shirts for like Aquaman. We see him wearing a Batman and Robin shirt as a literal.
Dude, I want that shirt. I have never seen that, and I saw that in this movie. I want that shirt.
Bat and Robin. At the end of the movie, a Gremlin shirt. He also wears a shirt with a tree.
Check out my Gremlins reaction.
The tree of life that the Daughters of Atlas are trying to regrow. Eugene wears an Iconoclast shirt, which is actually a video game that David F. Sandberg's brother made. As they leave their home, walking out on the street, on the fence is Torpa. Torpa is a school where Sandberg and his wife, Loda Loston, met, whereas Yundal is written beneath it. That's a school they both transferred to. Sandberg said that this whole walk and power-up shot was a pickup shot that they had to do, since originally they had them power up off camera, and for the placeholder during test screenings, they actually used something that they shot for the first movie and no one noticed, apparently. The Philly fiasco's power up to save the people on the bridge. The woman in the car is actually a cameo by Sandberg's wife, Lota. She stars in all of their amazing horror shorts on the Pony Smasher YouTube channel, including Lights Out, which this movie later references by someone saying Lights Out. In the credits, she's listed as Nurse in Need of a Hero. I thought she looked familiar. She sings Bonnie Tyler's I Need a Hero. Obviously, Sandberg worked in a lot of references to his life and his friends and his horror influences. Later on in the movie, on one of the streets, Shazam is standing in front of a shop that reads Fulci, an homage by Sandberg to Italian film director Lucio Fulci. When you're on the bridge, the family struggles to cooperate.
Dude, I love this whole scene, man.
And Billy as Captain Every Power Jr.
Reference to
for how they don't really have superhero names yet, and the confusion of Shazam's real name historically in DC Comics being Captain Marvel before Marvel came in and just basically ripped off that name. So DC and the New 52 just basically had to rename him as Shazam. It's always been very confusing. But in the comics, when he went by Captain Marvel, Freddy was Captain Marvel.
I was like,
so they're just
waiting.
They debrief in the Rock of Eternity, which they have turned into their.
Who is the inspiration for Elvis's entire look?
Clubhouse. I love how the back wall of the rock has turned into a rock climbing wall. Freddy hangs newspaper clippings, including one of Wonder Woman, setting up Diana's cameo later. Not that surprising because Warner Brothers put it in all of their trailers, pretty much. Then in the room of doors, Eugene has gone through many of the doors, seeing which ones are not okay to go into. One is a sign warning, beware of spider dog. Another one, nightmare fuel, M for mature. Eugene gets thrown out of one covered in slime, saying, do not go in there, which feels like an Ace Ventura reference.
Do not go in there. Woo!
Billy says Wonder Woman doesn't have a job, joking that she doesn't wear a ponytail and glasses and work as an accountant. A nod to Diana's day job as a museum archivist in Paris, and to Linda Carter, TV Wonder Woman, when she played Diana Prince. Hesper and Calypso force an imprisoned wizard to repair the staff, but he keeps a splinter that he uses to summon Billy. At their high school from the last movie, Freddy meets Anne, aka Anthea, and a few bullies. And like in the
wearing an Iron Giant shirt that time. Who loves Superman?
Walks with a crutch. They bend his crutch. This is some real hate crime shit. And I know the Philly Flyers GM's son loves to do this kind of stuff, but can we have some consequences for people in movies who attack people with disabilities and not just write it off as typical bullying? Like the teacher just checks in with them afterwards like, hey, you okay, kid? And not going after the bullies to expel them? What is this, the 50s? Come on! Diedrich Bader plays this teacher,
weird.
And this actor has actually voiced Batman in a number of animated titles, including the recent Harley Quinn series. And I love how in the background of the scene, there's just, it's a little detail that I think is very funny.
And he's great in that too. I love that iteration of Batman, man. Batman, man.
There's a drama club poster with "We need more boys." Not in my high school drama club. I was the only boy they needed. Used to get all the parts until our teachers started recruiting jocks for the wrestling team to play the leads. Billy has a dream where he's on a date with Wonder Woman in Paris, and we only ever see her from behind here, like the Superman faceless cameo in the 2019 film. But this is not actually Gal Gadot here. This is a stand-in model, Taylor Cahill, and the wizard's face astral projects on her head in the dream. And I hope this doesn't awaken anything in me. But back in the Rock of Eternity, Billy references a violin that's constantly
I thought that was hilarious, man.
The villain Ogar enchants Nero's fiddle to constantly release fire, nearly burns down the city of New York. They read up on the Daughters of Atlas and the Tree of Life in the archives, where they meet their friend Steve, a pen, and we learn that the wizards used a staff carved from the Tree of Life to steal the power of the gods, and they created a sphere that encased the gods away from our realm. Now Shazam Billy doesn't know how to pronounce Solomon. He says Solo Man. Is it just me, or is he like weirdly dumb in this movie? Dumber than a 17-year-old should be. Dumber than he was in the 2019 movie. Just often feels like Zachary Levi is playing up the stupidity and Eugene playing a version of Billy that Asher Angel isn't really playing. Tom Hanks in Big and in Forrest Gump worked really hard to study the mannerisms and speech patterns of the kids whose adult versions he played. And Levi seemed to be doing that in the 2019 film, but here it's like he's doing a new campy shtick and going more for laughs, and it doesn't really seem to be that authentic. That's just me though. Freddy.
On that one, I do kind of disagree. While I do think he crosses some lines at times, I felt like he was a little more connected to Asher's performance in this one. I'm going to play you guys a segment from my review where I kind of go into like my thought process behind that, just rather than trying to recreate it or say it all again word for word without messing something up. So I'll just go to play you a little segment here from that video. One of the reasons why I'm not always that bothered by the fact that Asher and Zach have two very different attitudes and personalities when they're these characters is because when Billy is a kid, when he is Asher Angel, he's vulnerable to his emotions, to his plights, to his struggles, his past, his connections and lack thereof. So he does seem a little more serious, a little more edgy in that kind of way because it's a defense mechanism in a lot of ways. He's closed off, he's fragile, he's vulnerable as Billy. However, when he's Shazam, when he's Zachary Levi, yeah, he gets to open up. A lot of those walls come down and he kind of gets to be a kid. He doesn't feel like he has to shield himself and protect himself because he is, as Shazam, an adult. And I think that's where he actually, one of the reasons he becomes a little more immature is because he doesn't have to fend for himself or fight. So some of those more immature moments, those more childlike moments get to come out because he doesn't have to have these defensive barriers up anymore. In a way, Shazam is his mask that protects him from his insecurities and his fears in a lot of ways and allows him through this character, through this avatar in a way, to be a kid, to be more confident, to be more outgoing and out of his shell. And that's kind of where he kind of falls into things and he gets entrapped where he's like, well, he spends more time being Shazam or he spends less time being Billy because why be Billy when you can be Shazam? And it's an interesting dynamic that we see actually play out a lot in the comics. I can see and understand like the reason why people are like, well, they seem like two very different people. But to me, like it's always felt like once he's Shazam, he actually gets to be a kid because he hasn't really been able to do that. He's always been on the run. He's always been moving from home to home. He's never been comfortable or felt safe in any one place. And it's those very same insecurities that informs on all of his decisions throughout this movie and his primary struggle and his arc, which actually carries over from the first film into this, even evolving and changing as it grows to just kind of further cement Billy into this group, into this family. And what does that mean to him when what he's known about family up until this point has been people leaving him? So yeah, when he's Shazam, he doesn't have to worry about anything. He's damn near invulnerable. He's got all these powers. He's got this super family. Like all of his worries kind of melt away when he's out there being a superhero. So in that way, it allows him to be that immature kid life has just never allowed him to be. So I feel like emotionally in that way, it sets himself back. Weird comparison, but it's like, it's kind of like the Michael Jackson effect. You know, he's emotionally stunted in a way, like where we see him desperately holding on to these connections as everybody else is maturing and going their separate ways. And life is kind of coming in and he's trying to prevent that from happening again. And that's part of his arc throughout this film, which is understanding that people will go their separate ways, but that doesn't mean they're no longer your family anymore, that you guys are still connected, you'll still be friends, you're still part of this home, that these things that he's always had to worry about because ever since his mother left him and he's never known his father, he's never had these bonds and he's afraid about what happens when they're not within arm's length because he doesn't know what that's like. And especially throughout this film, we see him using a lot of that immature banter to try to distract everybody from their own thing, to try to keep them focused on, you know, staying a unit. And another reason why he's so adamant about them being a super team and like putting their stuff aside and focusing on that, because he's trying too hard to keep them from leaving, from doing their other things, because he's afraid. That's the one time where even while he's Shazam, he's afraid. and he's clinging on to all these aspects. So maybe he is in some ways being more immature in this one and maybe more childish, because in a way, that's what he's doing to try to keep his family together. That's what he thinks he's doing to try to keep them together. If she distracts Mary from her studying, from going out to college parties and seeing like where she would like to go to school, maybe she'll forget about actually going to school. Like, it's these ways where he's trying his best to force things to stay the way they are, and in a way, he's keeping himself in a certain spot in time as well and not allowing himself to grow beyond that, and that's, again, part of the arc in this movie. That's about him accepting that and accepting that this family won't leave him. It's just, I found it touching as all hell, man.
And hang out on the rooftop, and Freddy powers up, but in this moment he gets attacked by Hespera and Calypso.
Also, Freddy, you are dumb as hell. Like, I don't know how you thought that was going to play out.
So makes poor Mr. Jekyll walk off the
But
edge
I love him.
and says, I forgot how easily they burst like grapes? That's horrifying. The Shazam family arrives to help, but the sisters get away with Freddy, leaving Shazam stuck on the other side of the barrier. They take Freddy back to their Atlas temple, where Calypso tries to force him to tell the truth about who the other champions are, but he screams, Destiny's Child did it better! And I gotta say, it's pretty nice of a kid who's probably, based off the timeline of this movie, born in the early aughts, who's only ever grown up in the reign of Beyonce as a solo act, to pay some respect to Kelly Rowland and Michelle Williams. Though at the same time, a trio of women that includes Lucy Liu, it's just a surprise that Charlie's Angels never came up here.
That's a good point.
Reads a letter that Steve dictated for them on the magical parchment, and it's pretty hilarious.
This is one of the best scenes in the whole movie, man.
When she had to recite the full name of Borat when she presented at the Oscars.
Sacha Baron Cohen for Borat Cultural Learnings of America for Make Benefit Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan, based on characters created by Sacha Baron Cohen.
Freddy and the Wizard get thrown into Calypso's pit, where the dragon nearly burns them, but Anthea uses her powers to manipulate space to relocate them and help them escape. Shazam Billy has a summit with Hespera outside Sam's Billy Cheesesteaks, where a guy calls him Colonel Cheesesteak, another Captain Marvel joke there. Billy says that he's seen all the Fast and Furious movies and he knows it's all about family, which does feel like another Helen Mirren nod for her role as Queenie Shaw in those movies. Shazam Billy again mistakes Solomon, saying he has the wisdom of Saruman from Lord of the Rings, so he knows who that is, but not Solomon. They have a fight with Hespera, they throw each other around. There's parallel shot composition where Hespera lifts Shazam to body slam him, and then he does the same to this woman at the end of the fight. They end up imprisoning her in the lair, but big mistake, because she escapes and steals that black-coated apple that we've been seeing.
That scene, I loved it, because like I like the way he was like, what powers do you have? And then just like replaced her with his super speed, and she just took herself out, man. It was a great, I think the use of their powers was done really well in this. Like, all of their abilities, I feel like, were put to decent and strong use in this movie compared to the other ones. You know, I feel like that goes unchecked in a lot of these superhero films and stuff, where I don't feel like all of their abilities really get showcased quite a lot. But I think they did a good job in this. That's the one thing I really did like about Black Adam. I think the way that they showed his power was really well done in that movie. And I think obviously that's probably by design or by contract. But yeah, that's the two things I could really say about this, and that I really did enjoy. Even though I pretty much, there's not a thing I didn't enjoy in this film personally, but that's, again, just me.
These scenes, turns out this is exactly the seed they're looking for, one of the golden apples from the Tree of Life, and they use this to replant at Citizens Bank Park. As the roots snake through the city, pods hatch, releasing classical mythological monsters. Manticores, those are the lions with wings and stinger tails. Cyclopes, those are the one-eyed horned ogres.
Harpies.
Minotaurs, of course, the bull-headed boys. And harpies, those are the female-faced shrieking
and
monsters.
Unicorns.
One of these Philadelphia residents gets lifted off the ground and tossed. It's a cameo by director David F. Sandberg. The family meets atop the parking garage, and Rosa has
He gets picked up by a harpy and just completely yeeted.
sweet moment with Billy, telling them he'll always have a home with them. Billy Shazam confronts Calypso.
Dude, I
water
cried
dragon,
like
calling
quite
her,
a few
"Hey,
times
Khaleesi!"
in this
And during
movie,
this fight,
man.
he gets hit with a black toxic sludge, and he's thrown to the street below, where a local Shazam fan says, "You're the best, Captain Marvel." This is actually a cameo by Michael Gray, who played Billy Batson in the 70s TV series. Darla uses ambrosia of Skittles to attract a herd of unicorns who mow down the other monsters, and Darla screams, "Taste the rainbow, motherfuckers!" Which almost makes the product placement worth it, I think. Calypso's dragon kills Hespera and nearly kills Anthea, and Freddy stands stands at her side, but Billy's able to grab the tail and ends up trapping Calypso and the dragon in a shrunken version of the dome just around the Tree of Life in Citizens Bank Park. Hesper had told him that his lightning would annihilate everything inside the dome, so it's a showdown on the field between Billy and the dragon. Billy uses that staff to impale the dragon against a tree, screaming Shazam, wiping out all the magic and the life inside the dome and killing all three of them. They end up holding Billy's funeral at the temple, a place that it's not entirely clear how they got to since there's no magic currently in the world, so however they got there, they were dragging Billy Batson's corpse. Coffin.
The door room in the Rock of Eternity is my theory. I mean, there was a door straight to the place, so why not?
Flopping it all over the streets of Philly. The wizard says they need a god to respark the staff, and Diana appears with the amazing Wonder Woman theme music. Which is awesome. I'm always gonna rock out to it, though let's remember we are at a child's funeral right now. A little bit of an awkward needle drop. So they resurrect Billy. He's got a dead spider in his teeth. Diana's like, stick to saving the world, kid. And like in a Fast and Furious movie, we end up with a family dinner scene. And the wizard shows up with a new look, and he finally tells Billy his actual superhero name. It's Shazam. But we end with Freddy saying, I think we can do better. Now the post-credit scenes do have Billy getting
That's like the one thing I was like, come on guys, it's right there. I think that's like the one joke that I may have kind of had a hang up on. I was like, guys, come on, you're not that dumb. That might be the only thing, but it's fine.
Recruited by Harcourt and Economos to join the Justice Society, and her old friend Dr. Savannah from the 2019 film, still with Mr. Mind in his holding cell, just like in that past movie's post-credit scene. There's nothing new to report, but remember, Mr. Mind did lead the first ever supervillain team in DC Comics, the Monster Society of Evil. Whether or not these
which would be great fit for Gods and Monsters.
Credit scenes lead to anything in DC's future beyond an episode of Waller on HBO Max remains to be seen. And look, I know this movie isn't perfect. A lot of people are giving it a hard time. That Rotten Tomato score is looking a little rough, but you know what? I
do that audience score though, man.
Movie. I miss the era where superhero movies can just be fun outings with superheroes goofing off and not be the best superhero movie of all time.
Dude, it was good. It was fun.
Everything has to matter. A reminder to subscribe to our
and it can matter if people went to see it. That's the thing. I had an interesting discussion in our Discord about it. I was like, oh, why see it if it doesn't matter? And I was like, well, the thing is, if you don't see it, it's not going to matter. You know, I mean, it still could. I mean, we've seen like things not work out and them still kind of keep it connected. Maybe they won't give it a Shazam 3, but maybe they will still make appearances. Maybe they'll still stay in the continuity. We don't know yet. Oh, I almost forgot. One of the things that makes me think that it might already exist in the rebooted timeline is the change of the suits and the reason they reshot that old scene. Again, they gave a very understanding reason as to why they reshot it, even if it creates a continuity issue between the two movies. There's already another one that also kind of exists in this film as well that makes me kind of wonder if it's still in the same universe. Because we don't know what Aquaman, what Batman, what, Flash he's talking about. We don't see any of them in the film. The only person we see in the film is Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, which, as we understand at this point, is already kind of trying to be worked into this new timeline as well. We don't really know the status of what's happening, but she's one of the ones that they've been willing to continue to work with. That in mind, there's a couple of things that happen in this. Obviously, there's the reshot of the original sequence where they first get their powers when they break the staff. And the other thing is when anybody talks about the cafeteria scene from the last one, they only mention Shazam coming to sit with Freddy. No one says anything about Superman. Nobody says, Superman's not even mentioned in this entire movie. If this is in the current timeline, we know Superman is in his early days. Maybe he's not a known figure yet. We don't really know just yet what they're going to do with it. I don't know. It's just really odd to have that removed. I know originally there was a cameo, I think, that was actually shot for the movie that involved him that got taken out because of everything that happened. But again, a lot of this movie was in production and kind of locked off long before James Gunn took the reins and announced all of his stuff. But so who knows? It's all up in the air. Then the alternative, if this is still in the old continuity, pre-Flash, it's real easy to just slide it right in, even if Gal gets replaced. Again, you can just bleep. All the events play out exactly the same, except the other Wonder Woman helped them out. or some other god showed up. Like, it's an easy tweak of just a character change. That's it. That's not really the only thing that could potentially anchor it to pre or post position Flash. So it is what it is, man. We already know some things are carrying forward even after Flash resets everything, like Peacemaker Season 2, like Waller. Some elements will continue. Some will get completely reset. It's just like with, Flashpoint. It's just like with what happened in the New 52. They kept some major storylines. Some people's runs kept going even into the new continuity because it didn't really intersect too much, while others were completely drastically changed. And it really just, depends on how they play around with it, and we'll see what happens. The whole idea is like, if this does well, it will matter. And the whole theme of the movie fits perfectly with what James Gunn has announced so far. And he himself even said it fits perfectly into where they're going. Like, it doesn't disrupt anything. It doesn't really touch anything. It's kind of in its own world. It's like, so that could come over. He said it himself. Of course, David F. Sandberg and Zachary Levi have been like, well, if the movie does well, I think that would secure our position. Not that that is necessary to secure that position, but the thing is, people are like, well, if it's not going to be around, why go see it? Well, if you go see it, it will be around. I was like, like, it's like this cyclical, like, train of thought that just, like, it hurts my soul when I hear that, because it's just like, well, you're the reason it's not going to matter if that's the case. I don't need it to directly connect to whatever the next thing is. That's the thing. This first one didn't really do that either. I saw it because I think Shazam's cool. I love what they did, and it's fucking fun. And this is a funny thing. This is a complaint you hear a lot with Marvel movies these days, is like, God, this movie is just nothing but setting up another movie or show. Just focus on the movie. And then a movie will do that, and they'll be like, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't connect to anything. It's not setting anything up. And I'm like, well, what the fuck do you want? Oh my God, dude. I liked it. Loved it. I hope at least it breaks even. I mean, it doesn't have to earn too much to do that, but it's not looking great. And I'm really hoping that word of mouth from people who have seen it can help bolster the film, because I feel like there's just a lot of people on the fence. I think there's a lot of people that are just not certain with where and what DC is doing right now and whether these will carry over or not. Again, I think that is kind of like a weird contradictory approach to have to whether or not you're going to support this film or not. And then, of course, you have the other contingent. It was just like, and again, we don't really have any idea how to quantify how large this group is, who will just not see anything that is not made by a specific vision. So it is what it is, man. I'm sad at this point for this movie because it really is a good time. I think it's great family fun. If you got a group of kids, it is PG-13. It's not, I don't think it crosses any lines, but I think it's a fun little thing you can go out to your family with and have a damn good time, man. Definitely check it out. It's not Shakespeare. It's not, the next groundbreaking thing, but it is a good, entertaining, fun little romp. That's all things need to be sometimes. But anyway, that's my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. If you enjoyed this reaction, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. But before then, I want to shout out our channel legends, Benny Sherritt, Ryan Karen, Jason Coleman, Philly Vane, York, Corey Scott, Margaret Grace, Melita, Robert Anguiano, Raven McGann, Jeffrey Hale, M. Sephiroth, Jake Cantrell, Josh Lee, and Aaron Myers. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Everybody who's been helping the channel be what it is today. Love you guys, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everybody.